unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time.
Anonymity. Secrets. Who are you? Who's behind that mask? Reveal yourself. Anonymous. You know what's funny is that I've got a big sign in my workroom. It says unknown. Unknown. For a long time, through my 30s, I kind of, with my 3 question marks moniker, I was going by Anonymous, Unknown. And then Anonymous, the political activist group, came about and kind of stole my question mark and stole my guy, and it kind of pissed me off a little bit. But, and the internet was filled with anonymous things, and I just did that podcast with the anonymous internet stranger, and talked about what creates anonymity. And then I just got off the phone with a friend who has worked in politics for a long time, and she was asking about where she could, write articles and post them about her dealings in politics. She'd only want to do it if she was anonymous, and boy, what the internet was like when we all had our own anonymous names. And it's just weird that the more we can trade information, it seems like the more people want to be anonymous. Is that good? I don't know if that's good. I don't know if I like it. Everybody's worried about their privacy. I worry about my privacy, kind of, maybe a little bit. I don't know, do I? I think privacy is kind of a little bit overrated, I don't know how I feel about people who want to be anonymous. I don't see it as being brave. I don't see it as being brave. Would I go as far as to say, is it cowardice? Maybe. Is there anything to respect about going anonymous? Like, even when my friend asked me, where could I post about this anonymously? And I said, well, who wants to read anonymous things? Like, now, all the lefty news publication, an anonymous source in the White House says. It's like, oh, fuck your anonymous source. If that person doesn't have a name, this whistleblower, this anonymous person, fuck that, I don't give a flying fuck what an anonymous person has to say about anything. Put a face behind it. Give me some context, and then we'll talk. I want to know who you are. I want to know if you're a chicken shit. I want to know if you're brave. I want to know if you're short. I want to know if you're fat. I want to know if you're greasy. I want to know if you're tall. I want to know if you're rich, if you're poor. I want to have context to what you're saying, And that doesn't mean that will change what you're saying. I'll still separate what you say from who you are, but it will make a difference. Just as your voice makes a difference when I hear you say something and when you type something. It's one thing to do a Google search and copy paste. It's another thing to deliver an idea coherently and cogently, face to face, in context, with a subject. Being able to follow a linear thread through a thought, have it connect so that the people that are listening to you can understand what you're talking about, so your metaphors and analogies make sense. Lately I've been on the internet. If there's a quote that I like, I've been chopping off the source of the quote, and I'll post something like, does it matter who said it? Because if it's good information, if it's a good idea, it shouldn't matter who said it. But, in contrast to what I just said, if sometimes when people know who said something, they don't want to hear it. Like, for example, there's a meme that I posted from Henry Ford talking about if anybody's wonders how well the government takes care of somebody, maybe they should ask the American Indians how they feel about that. A little good burn on the government, Henry. It's a good burn. He was burning. It's a good zinger towards the government, because it could be pretty well argued that the U.S. government and the Native American Indians in the United States have had a little bit of a salty, shaky relationship, and I think it looks pretty clear that the American government hasn't pulled through, on their end of the deal so much. That's not giving a pass to the Indians. I'm not trying to take sides here. I'm just saying the observable thing, the big thing, is that government should be small. Don't trust them. And this anonymity thing, here's the way I think about that. At least politicians aren't anonymous. So we were talking, me and my friend, and I was going, there's nothing that's private. This obviously isn't private. I'm posting it on multiple platforms. I'm not intending it to be private. If I want to keep a thought private or an idea private, I simply don't let it out of my brain. Because once I let it out of my brain into the world, out of my mouth, and cause the airwaves around me to vibrate in such a way that it can be recorded, if I type it or record it, then I know that it's not private anymore. I can't be upset when somebody shares it. What's wrong with sharing? Go ahead and share, But I don't ever want to be anonymous about things. If I don't want to, if I feel the need to be anonymous about something, the only things I want to be anonymous about are things that are illegal. In that case, yes, anonymity is good. If you want to commit a crime, put on a ski mask, make sure nobody finds out who you are. Then you commit the crime. And that's not to say that you should always enter into a room face first when you're doing something that might be just. If the odds are stacked against you and you're doing something, I have no problem with your subversion, your anonymous subversion to get what is just and right according to you, or even a consensus of what is right. Ultimately, you're going to be the decider of what is right for you, what is right and what is moral. I don't know how you're going to make that decision. You're going to have your own way, but ultimately, you're going to make that decision for yourself. And you're going to have to pit that decision up against how society feels about it, or how the rules feel about it. And if the rules are stacked against you, well, how can I blame you for wanting to be anonymous? But is it admirable? I don't know. I don't think I have an answer to that question. Another smart friend of mine, who I don't even know how to say his name, I think he lives in Ireland, Facebook friend, but fucking articulate as hell. Gearoid, I think is his name. But he was making a comment about that, about there's nothing brave about saying all these big things in private, making private critiques or whatever. It's brave when you do it when you know you might get your face kicked in. And I made a quippy. He said something to those effect on his wall, and I said, it might be a sign that you're extremely stupid. I mean, if you know you're going to get your face kicked in for saying something and you say it anyway, and you get your face kicked in, not so sure that makes you super bright. Not even so sure. It might make you brave, but it also might make you stupid. You know what I mean? There's a time and a place. If you can create more good with some subversion, or by publishing under a pen name, if you can get more truth out there through some sort of fiction, and I do believe in that. I wouldn't be an artist if I didn't believe in that oftentimes art and fiction tell the bigger truth than a simple replay of events, That's another thing I kind of got another thing that's been bothering me lately. People keep sending me all these documentaries to watch, and I just can't watch documentaries anymore if they have music in them. The music, as soon as they say this thing about this person, they introduce a character and they put scary music under it, I go, well, you blew it. Now you've told me how I'm supposed to feel about this guy already. Just give me the fucking facts, the story, and let me decide. If it's supposed to be a documentary, it's supposed to be documenting things that actually happened. You're not supposed to be trying to teach me something. If that's the case, then stop calling your fucking thing a documentary and just call it art. Call it punditry. Make it an opinion piece. There's nothing wrong with having an opinion. I have an opinion. I have a podcast full of opinions. But don't try to pass it off as some kind of journalistic truth or something like that. Like you're some kind of unbiased thing. Anonymous sources. Ugh. When was the last time an anonymous source turned out to be good? Even I watched this documentary on Netflix. It was recommended to me, called Roll, Red, Roll. It was about that rape case in Steubenville, I think, Ohio. Some kids got wasted one night, high school kids, and a girl ended up being raped. And the guys admitted that they raped her, you know what I mean? Passed out, and they raped her, Admittedly so. She was passed out, and they ran a train on her, two guys, She woke up, had no recollection of the evening. Pressed charges. A lot of other kids, the kids were texting pictures back and forth of the thing. Really gross stuff that I wish could say wasn't as common as it is amongst children. And that's what these people were. These high school kids were children. Children do bad things. Children aren't these innocent things. I don't know why. When people talk about children as these wonderful, pure little things, I think you're insane. Children are children are the most unruly little bunch of. If they're the worst people in society are children. Okay, let's just be frank about that. I love them to death, but they're also the worst part of society. Luckily, most adults, by the time you grow up, you shed most of that terrible stuff that you had that made you a child. You grow out of the terrible parts of yourself, the childish aspects of yourself. You stop stealing, you stop lying, hopefully, at least about big things. You stop being a manipulative crybaby. You stop throwing temper tantrums, hopefully, But anyway, one thing did bother me about even that case, was that they kept referring to the rape victim as Jane Doe, right? Well, I have a little bit of a problem with that. First of all, the people in their town know who it is already, right? But they're acting like we need to be kept from doing that. They're showing all the names of all the kids involved. Everybody was at the party, showing all the police interrogations of them. So they're basically implicating not just the two rapists, but all their friends too. Because the case that they're basically trying to make with that documentary was that it is rape culture. And they were trying to tie it to the football team. And I can see why they might, because I wasn't a big fan of the football team in my high school either. Okay? Not a big fan. But to try to act like the whole football team is guilty when these two kids raped, and suddenly now the entire football team is dragged through the mud, I'll bet you that football team was mostly good kids, Those friends, mostly good friends. They didn't rape. But somehow they're trying to be dragged in as being part of the rape culture or whatever. Because, there's extenuating circumstances. They're going, well, that girl was she was wanting to go with those guys and blah, blah, blah. She's the one that drank. All the things that now get touted as victim blaming now. The forbidden things that you cannot say. You can never take into consideration all the things that led to a certain event. No, rape is rape, bad. No shades in between. It's an on or off. It's a binary thing. No room for nuance. And anybody that was involved is bad. And I just don't. Again, I made a whole podcast about this called Rape, if you want to look back. But we bear responsibility for our actions. I think we should, to stick with this anonymity thing. the anonymous thing relieves us of responsibilities. It relieves us from consequences. And wouldn't it be lovely if there were no consequences for anything that we do? But there are. There are. And I don't see anonymity as being a valiant end run around those consequences. You know? You can't just sit there and shut up. You know? And when the whole thing falls apart, not be surprised, or be surprised when it does fall apart because you didn't say something, or you didn't put your name on something. You didn't stand up and say, no, this is wrong. I'll talk, but I don't want to say who I am. Okay. I mean, I get it too, though. I get it. I know why you'd want to be anonymous about reporting a mob hit, because the mob is really mean. I can understand why you'd want to be anonymous when, you know, the government is doing something wrong. Hell, maybe, you know, look at Julian Assange. Look what's happening to him. What if he would have ran WikiLeaks completely anonymously and never came out of the closet? You know? Probably would have been better. You know? Maybe he would still be going. Maybe he would be out of jail. So, his courage to not be anonymous, it's a tricky thing. But at the same time, don't we need heroes like Julian Assange? Don't we need to know that he's in jail? Don't we need to force the hand of the, air quotes, evildoers? You know? Don't we need to know? I don't know, man. I don't know. And if he was anonymous, let's say he was anonymous and we didn't know who he was and WikiLeaks kept coming out. How would we even know? How would we even develop a trust in a source, you know? Would it just go away? Would it just be like, who knows what it is? Does it take... I think sometimes it takes a leader. It takes a person that's willing to stand up and say, look, I'm accountable. This is what I think. Test me now. Scrutinize me. Challenge me. You know, debate me. Fight me, or whatever. Do good things get done anonymously? Maybe they all get done anonymously. I don't know. This is just a little brain exercise I'm running with you here. Because I can see both sides, you know. I love the Ronald Reagan quote. Well, it's not a Ronald Reagan quote. He had it on his desk. It was, there is no limit to the good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit. Great. See, that's a totally contrast with my podcast from 2 days ago, which was basically lambasting culture for taking credit for the hard works of others and not giving credit. It's kind of a twofold thing. For yourself, the guiding principle is it doesn't matter if you get credit. If you want to do something good, who gives a fuck if you get credit? Which is a good way to do good things, right? If you want to do something good, do it in secret. You know? It's like reveal your sins, but put a lid on your virtues. It's, dare I say, it sounds kind of Jesus-like. Although he ultimately got hung on a cross. What a braggart he was, you know. Look at me, I'm dying for your sins. All glory to me and God. Okay. You know, doing it in secret, doing charity in secret, a little bit better than bragging about your charity, right? But when challenging the government, being a leader and standing up and saying, no, we got to do it this way. Or leadership, does leadership even happen with anonymity? You know? Who is this Bitcoin guy? Who is this guy that developed the blockchain, this Asian what's his name? Nakashi? I can't remember. Anonymity, man, it's a complicated thing. I can have respect for effective Subversion so long as it matches my morals, right? Because I win. I mean, that seems kind of selfish. Like if something matches my morals and somebody is effective in a subversive plot to, it's kind of like one of those double standards. And I maintain very high double standards, by the way. But when something benefits your team, benefits your morals, and again, you're ultimately going to be the only one who decides what is moral. Ultimately that becomes the most personal decision you're ever going to make. What is actually moral? What is right? What is wrong in the universe? That's a decision you are going to have to make, and you should probably balance it with all the different people, So when some anonymous underground subversion happens and it supports that moral, you're going to feel good about it, right? I can respect it, but will I ever respect it more than the brave person who does it with no anonymity, who stands there and says, nope, this is how I feel, this is my argument, come and get me, here I am. I don't know, is that an ego thing? What is that? Is that just a dramatic thing? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, anonymous listener? Anonymous listener. Like that guy I was talking to in that interview with the anonymous stranger. There's a very good chance that I'm just dumb for opening up my yap. But, I consider myself to be a lifelong student of the school of loudmouthery. The way I look at it is opening my yap here and pooping out my opinions into the world and getting the constant feedback and getting the constant pushback from people. Oftentimes I get good links to other sources. Most of the time, I'll be honest, to pat myself on the back, just opening up my own mouth about things causes me to look into things further for fear of being a fool. Well, not even for fear of being a fool, for fear of continuing to be a fool, You say a few things and you sign a few checks with your, put your signature on a few things. It tends to make you double check your homework to see, keep your tools sharp, so to speak. I don't know. I don't think I have much respect for anonymity. And I think that if everybody with decent basic human morals, and I think they do tend to lean, I think on average, at least in Western culture, I think they lean towards being good, to getting along with people. I hope. I'm not sure, but I think that is my optimistic point of view. I think that they lean good. And I wish that all these people that write me anonymously, well, they don't write me anonymously, but they write me privately, okay? If all those private people would be more vocal about how they feel and actually stand up and take the flack and take the pushback and not cower, when they come after you, just go, fuck you. Fuck you. This is how I think. You got to debate me on it. Come on. I can handle it. Don't let them pressure you into an apology or into a corner. No, you just stand firm. And if they get ugly, let them get ugly. Who cares? Who cares? Let them get ugly. Help them get ugly. Ask them more questions as they try to back you into a corner. Stand your goddamn ground. And I'm not just saying being stubborn. If they have better ideas, then listen to them. But if they don't, and you've got the best argument, and you know that they're being bad, if you know that their arguments are terrible, then fucking stand up and be counted. Don't just wait. Don't make everybody else do it. I was watching Gavin McInnes's network, Free Speech TV. A new show with him and Milo called Milo and I. And it's really I only like it when Milo and Gavin are both together, because when Milo's just with another guy, I don't find it as entertaining. The two of them together are better than either of them are separately. I wish they would always just do their show together. But some caller called in and criticized Gavin. Some anonymous caller called in and criticized Gavin for having excused himself from the leader of the Proud Boys, even though the Proud Boys was never a real group. But he just criticized Gavin. Then Gavin just freaked out, and he gave a really impassioned speech that just flew out of his face, and it was really angry. He was like, I'm actually putting my life on the line here. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm an enemy to all my neighbors. And he just gave this smackdown that was delicious. I fucking loved it. It was almost a tearjerker, I'll tell you. And Milo was a little bit taken aback by it, too. Milo wanted to be funny about it, but he was just like, ooh, I felt that. And it's true. And Gavin's got all my respect for standing behind his morals. And he has morals. He has them. He's a good person. And he stands, he's accountable to them. He's taken so much shit. So yeah, he's not anonymous. There's nothing anonymous about Gavin. And if it's all his ego, then thank goodness for ego. Same with Milo. So anyway, yeah. And thanks to my friend Sarah, who let me use her login information. I'm a cheapskate. I'm sitting here talking about Milo and Gavin. And the only reason I saw it is because my friend Sarah Hines gave me her login information and let me watch it. Oh, and I also watched Soph's new video, and boy, does she come out hard. What a fucking dynamite kid that is. She came out straight up like a religious preacher, preaching against masturbation and sexual deviation. And I was like, boy, here's a correction, societal correction that needed to happen. 15-year-old kid. Amazing. Anyway, I'm off track. Don't be anonymous, okay? Stand up, be brave, don't be such a pussy. Thanks for listening.